Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on just the DC TV as a whole, the Arrowverse, because it's Crisis on Infinite Earths discussion time. So as we draw closer and closer and nearer to the start of the new seasons, the new seasons of the various DC TV shows on the CW, which is now only a few days away. Like Batwoman and Supergirl start in 4 days, I think, from when this comes out, something like that. But yeah, we will constantly be reminded about the impending doom and possible torture that our favourite characters face. And no, I'm not talking about the opening of Apartment 4 and unleashing whatever is in there. I'm of course talking about Crisis on Infinite Earths. But as I said, we will probably be reminded of Crisis constantly through most of the shows until the event actually airs. But right now, every day for the past week or so, it sort of feels like we are getting something new dropped on social media by one or more of the actors in regards to stuff from Crisis on Infinite Earths. Which is, it's pretty crazy. Like every single morning I wake up, there's a new photo that people are sending me saying, oh my god, did you see this? And I'm like, well, now I have. So before we go over anything from the past few days that was released or teased about in regards to Crisis, whatever comes out today or has just come out before this video went live, because I'm sure something came out, I'm sure it was really cool and exciting and needs to be talked about, and I'm excited for it. Even though I don't know what it was, I'm sure it was cool, but I'll talk about that at a later date, I guess. So yeah, lucky that I, held off editing this video for a bit later, but they actually did reveal that thing I thought they would reveal, and it's actually pretty cool. It's our first look at Harbinger. So Harbinger is Lila Michaels. Now in the comics, just to give you a brief rundown without spoiling too much, earlier in her life she was saved by the Monitor during a big incident, and then later in, when Crisis is just about to start, she goes through a process, if you want to call it, becomes Harbinger. Has a decent role in Crisis, which actually ends up with her, something happening to her and then her lining up with the Anti-Monitor. I won't go into details because, well, spoilers, and because she's actually in the crossover, I'm going to assume they're going to follow the story from the actual comic a decent amount with her. So I think she looks pretty good. In the comics, she wears like a helmet. I think they said that they tried the helmet, it didn't work that well, so they just left it without it, which I don't really mind. I think the rest of the suit looks pretty cool. And Lila is actually going to have the thing that I think a lot of people thought was going to happen, but weren't too sure was going to happen at the same time. So good for her. Audrey Marie Anderson, I think, is the name of the actress. So yeah. But yeah, of course, throughout the video, it would be awesome if you guys could let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on what we go over, what your various thoughts about the certain topics in question, and what are you looking forward to the most. I think there's probably two things here that are probably going to fight for what people think is the most exciting. But yeah, leave all your various opinions down there in the comments. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video and you're looking forward to what we talk about in this video, why not drop a like on the video to show support, and of course, hype. But the first thing to go over in the video is probably the thing that I put in the title. Not sure, as I usually just come up with my title as I'm uploading the video. So there is some insight into the professional nature of my channel. But anyway, as we knew a couple of months back, roughly, was it even a couple of months back? I don't know, time goes weird in my life. Anyway, as we knew a while back, roughly, it was announced that Kevin Conroy would be joining the Arrowverse in order to take up the role of a future version of Bruce Wayne, finally becoming the live-action version of the character he famously voiced in the Batman the Animated Series TV show, amongst other things. Now, we were wondering how he would play into Crisis, and while we don't know, that exactly yet, we did get a first look at what he could possibly look like on the crossover. Now, he was seen arriving into Vancouver, where they, of course, film all the shows, as well as Crisis on Infinite Earths, and you can see he's rocking a bit of a beard, a bit of a scruffy facial hair situation. Now, the big question with this is whether the Bruce Wayne we have in Crisis will be a bit more scruffy and hairy than what we are used to, and the fact that he arrived in Vancouver with a pronounced bit of facial hair might suggest this. Maybe they might tailor it to what the show needs. Maybe it doesn't need to look this way, but maybe, it looks a certain way. Maybe they're going to dye the beard a bit grey or something, who knows. But if it is a future version, maybe it's a crappy future where Bruce is secluded and gets a bit untidy and a bit unkept. Bruce Wayne usually stays pretty tidy, but when stuff goes crap, maybe he just goes disheveled as well. But it will be interesting to see what comes from this. But let me know in the comments, do you think he's going to look like this in the crossover? Because I don't think he's going to suit up in a major way. But more maybe we might see his suit in the background. He'll just be Bruce Wayne sitting in the Batcave or something along those lines. But let me know, do you think he'll stay like this, or do you think he'll look a bit different? But along with Kevin Conroy, aka Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, arriving into Vancouver for Crisis filming, we also had John Cryer, aka Alan Harper, aka Lex Luthor, arrive for Crisis as well. Now, I guess spoilers for the conclusion of Supergirl last season, but Lex Luthor was shot dead by his sister Lena Luthor, but right as the season came to a close, the Monitor, yes, the Monitor arrives and takes Lex's dead body with him, or at least that is what it seems happened. They just show him opening a portal and that's it. Now, in the Crisis story in the comics, as you would expect, Lex Luthor does play a decent role, which is also connected to the Monitor, so you would expect this to be the case in some way, shape or form, as well in the TV version of the story for Crisis. Now, I think I read that there was a scene filmed in the woods or the forest, whatever Canadians call it, for Crisis, where it is Kara or Supergirl with John Jones, aka Martian Manhunter, and it appears that this could be the point where maybe Kara runs into Lex Luthor again, but there could be something else going on with him. Maybe he has changed or something along those lines. Obviously, it is going to be hard to get the context for a lot of scenes, especially Crisis, because it's its own contained thing for the most part, so I think it's really going to be hard to get a grip on certain scenes like this, so we don't know where it's placed throughout an episode or the entire crossover itself, so yeah, it's hard to get a grip on what exactly was going on. But yeah, Lex is back for filming again as well, so there. Now next up is, we're just going to go over some stuff which I'm sure a decent amount of you have already seen, but I haven't really discussed it in any of my videos, so I thought I'd give my opinions. The first thing, the Kingdom Come suit for Brandon Routh was released. I sort of knew it was coming the day before. I got told that pretty much it was going to be released very soon, so I got excited for it and was expecting it. But it's so comic accurate, man. Like, it's so cool. It's just cool to see Brandon Routh be able to suit up again. Like, I'll just give a quick story time. When I was like, I think I was like 9 or 10 or something. I live in Sydney, Australia right now, but then back then I was still living in Sydney, Australia as well. I was a kid. I was in the city. I was there with one of my parents. I think it was my dad specifically. And if you didn't know, Superman Returns, the movie where Brandon Routh played Superman, was filmed in Sydney. Like, they used the Sydney city as Metropolis. And I was there for the day. I think it was the scene where they film, it's like the stairs scene where I think like a cab or a taxi goes down the stairs and Superman saves Lois Lane or something. I think that's the scene. I haven't watched the movie for a while, but I think that was the scene in question. And I was there for that filming, and I saw Brandon Routh in the Clark Kent suit. That was like my first experience with ever like really seeing like things behind the scenes and stuff. But that's always stuck with me. So the fact that Crisis is going to bring back Brandon Routh to play, well, the Kingdom Come Superman and maybe a version of Clark Kent as well. It's almost like a full circle thing. It sounds weird, but I just remember that moment vividly, like seeing them filming that movie when I was really young. And it was weird because in Australia at that time there wasn't that many things filmed. Now there is, but back then it wasn't the biggest thing. So that just stuck with me. So it's pretty cool that that's coming back. Now, speaking of the Kingdom Come suit, we did get Tyler Hoechlin and Brandon Routh taking a photo together in their Superman or their respective Superman suits. It does look like in the background it is a very classic looking Daily Planet maybe, so maybe this is the Earth that the Kingdom Come Superman's from, if it is a bit more classic or something like that. I don't know, does it look classic to you? It just looks like a bit of a classic logo to me, but this is a cool photo. You get a better look at the suit, like a more realistic take on the suit that isn't like photoshopped and stuff, and like with different lights around it, and it still looks amazing. It still looks really good. So this was a very cool photo to see. Another photo that was posted online was from Stephen Amell, who posted this photo of him with cuts, and he said like it was a fun day on Crisis on Infinite Earths or something along those lines. I'm sure I'll put the tagline in the photo that you'll see on screen right now. Now, while it looks like Stephen's had, or Oliver Queen might I say in the crossover, has had a bit of a rough day, in the background you can see a list of names. Now, there's a big list of names there, but I'll just pick off 3 things in particular. The first thing is that you see Baby John. Now, Baby John is actually the son of, Clark Kent and Lois Lane, or Superman and Lois Lane. It's hard to guess whether it's the Tyler Hoechlin's version's son, or it's maybe the Smallville version's son, Tom Wellings, or if it's even the Kingdom Come version's son. I don't know. It's hard to tell, to be completely honest. I'd probably say the Tyler Hoechlin one, because they went away, like at the end of Elseworlds, she was pregnant, so it makes sense that they had the baby by now, and the baby's in the crossover. But yeah, so Jonathan Kent, aka the son of Superman and Lois Lane, is in the crossover. There are actually 3 Lois Lanes on that list, so we know that Erica Durance is coming back to play her Smallville version. We have Bitsy Tulak playing her version from Elseworlds. But who's the third one? Well, there's probably 2 options. I think there's only 2 options, actually. The first one is that's Terry Hatcher coming back to play her version of Lois Lane. Obviously, she did play Mon-El's mother in Season 2, I think it was, of Supergirl. So she could come back and play her version of Lois Lane, but I think you'd have to bring back the Dean Cain Superman for that I don't know if you have to do it to make it work, but if you think you're gonna bring back one, you'd bring back both. The other version, the other option, sorry, is that the Lois Lane, this third Lois Lane, is the Lois Lane to the Kingdom Come Superman. The issue with that is that in the Kingdom Come, Lois Lane is dead. I think the Joker killed her. Who killed Lois Lane in Kingdom Come? Can't remember off the top of my head. Once again, I haven't read it for a while, but who? If you remember, let me know in the comment section down below. But Lois Lane is dead in Kingdom Come, so it's sort of going against it if that's what they're going for, but I'd say the safe bet's Terry Hatcher, but you never know. And the last thing is that there's two Lex Luthors there. There's just a normal Lex, and then there's a Lex followed by a word that begins with S. Is this Lex Smallville? Obviously, Michael Rosenbaum did post that thing on Twitter where he's saying like he got approached and he got like wasn't really getting anything in return for doing it, so he turned it down. It was like really short notice, but maybe that's all publicity to, you know, to surprise people that he's going to be in the crossover. So maybe this is our first hint, that whole Lex, you know, with the S after it. Who knows if Steven knew this stuff was in the background when he took the photo? I'd have no idea. But speaking of Smallville, we did have like the Smallville reunion photos on the Kent farm. We obviously had Tom Welling's Clark Kent and Erica Durance's Lois Lane take some photos together, and then we also had a photo of Tom Welling with the I guess the newest versions of Lois Lane and Clark Kent, that being Tyler Hoechlin and Bitsy Tulloch. I guess the big question is whether Tom Welling's going to suit up in this crossover, or whether he's like a bridge in the story that connects certain things and never suits up. Who knows? I would love to see him as Superman Prime, because Tom Welling is so much bigger than the other. Like, Brandon Routh's pretty big, but even in the photo you can just see the size difference between Tom Welling and Tyler Hoechlin. So it'd be pretty cool if Tom Welling did play like the Superman Prime version, which is like the alpha male of all the Superman, or the Supermen, might I say. And he's just overpowered. So it'd be pretty cool if he played that version, seeing he was like, I guess the first one. Well, no, well, technically was Brandon. I guess Brandon was. But anyway, I think it'd be cool if he played Superman Prime. And the last thing we saw was we had Jonah Hex, or Jonathan Shake, take some photos of him on set as Jonah Hex with some others. We had Barry, or The Flash, Constantine, himself, Jonah, Sarah Lance, and Mia Smoke. That was obviously the big surprise to see her there. It seems that she's in the crossover for a decent amount. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see how people react to that, because, as I've said, she's not the best character. But maybe she might be better, with some maybe better writing, just better scenes. But in regards to this, we have one from the past, which is Jonah, 3 characters from the present, that being Barry, Constantine, and Sarah, and one from the future, that of course being Mia. Now, is this going to set up how Mia Smoke stays in the present day and starts that whole spin-off with Laurel and Dinah? That makes sense, because I think most people agree if they go with a future setting for that show, it's probably going to suck, because the future wasn't very appealing in what we saw last season, and also you'd have to put makeup on Laurel and Dinah every single episode, which I don't think will work if the show wants to go on for a decent amount of time. So I think setting it in present day is the better go. It's probably going to be cheaper to make, because you have to do all the futuristic sets, so I think that's probably what they're going to set up in Crisis. It wouldn't surprise me. I think it's for the better as well. Now, something that could come out fairly soon, but they might wait a couple more, maybe like a month or so until the shows have actually started, is a poster for Crisis, like a comic style, similar to what we got with Crisis on Earth X, but obviously in the vein of the Crisis on Infinite Earths comic cover, or graphic novel cover. We should get something like that. I'd expect it, but who knows when they're going to drop it. But they could drop it randomly. Who knows? Maybe when they just get it done. That's probably when it's going to drop. When it's finished, they'll just drop it. So yeah, get excited for that. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it would be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on what we went over. What was your favorite part that you're looking forward to, and all of that. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.